Hi friends, and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are excited for the poinsettia that we are going to be painting today. So let's just get right to it. So today we are going to be using Winsor Newton paints. I am using Scarlet Lake and Alizarin Crimson. Alizarin Crimson is the name, and cadmium red are what I'm working with. And then also I'm using Daniel Smith's gold, metallic gold. So I'm just starting out. This is my size 6 Princeton Neptune brush, and it's one of my favorite brushes. I really like it. It does kind of go flat. I don't know if you can see that, how it just kind of flattens out a little bit, but I just really like that because I feel like the point you can really get down into the tight corners. And so I am just taking this wash of Scarlet Lake and I am filling in each of the outside leaves. Now this particular poinsettia I just drew, and I started in the middle. I drew a big circle first so that I could stay in the lines, and then I drew the 5 leaves on the outside, and then 4 leaves in between those, and then 3 leaves in the very middle. And as you can see right now, I'm just adding in some alizarin crimson. We'll get that right. And just into the wet on wet here, and just letting that kind of bloom into those places where it would be shaded. I am using the Arches 300 100% cotton paper. It's my favorite paper. I've tried all different sorts of paper. You can see that I had a little touch of red on my fingers, so you have to be careful about stuff like that, but that's okay because I am just going to work that into my painting. I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to make a little sprig with berries on it, and we'll just add that in. So I'm just continuing to go around the edge here and fill in with my alizarin. Actually, this is the Scarlet Lake, and there is a little bit of cadmium red mixed with that, and then just with a lot of water. It is a little bit of a deeper mix, or a thicker mix, I should say, and so it's got a little more value in it, a little darker value. So we're just going to finish filling in each of those 5. And then dropping in again some of that alizarin crimson. I got it that time. And I'm still getting used to all the colors. I kind of switch between 2 palettes. I really like my Mungyo palette, and I will list that in the description along with all of the other supplies that I'm using today. I like the Mungyo palette. It has 48 colors, and they're just really vibrant. It is a student set, I believe, but it has got some really vibrant colors. It has all of the same colors as Winsor Newton, Daniel Smith, plus it has just a really good supply of greens and reds and blues, and I just really love it. So I end up using that one a lot, but today I thought I would use my Winsor Newton professional grade paints. So that's what you're seeing here. I picked up that little daisy palette from Hobby Lobby, and so if you have a Hobby Lobby near you, that would be a great thing to pick up. I really do use that quite a bit and really like it. I will be switching between a couple of brushes near the end. I'm going to stick with the size 6 Princeton Neptune brush for most of this painting, and I just like that when I am painting simple things that beginners can paint. I like to use just one or two brushes and a couple of paints. So it's not something that you have to run out and grab everything. If you have a palette that has a couple of different reds in it, a lighter red and a deep red, there is no reason why you can't do this. We are going to use a little bit of green, and I just chose Hooker's green that we are going to be using for some little branches on the outsides of the poinsettia near the end. Okay, now that that is completely dry, I am going in with it. Now this is alizarin crimson mixed with a little bit of cadmium red. And I noticed that with the poinsettias, they usually are darker in the center and lighter on the outside petals, on the bigger petals. So I'm just doing these just a little bit darker. And actually I'm doing the center, the very center, so they will be the darkest of all of the petals. So I think I've been calling them leaves, but they're petals. Every once in a while, I find that I get a little piece of fur from my cat, Fitz. He likes to just hang out wherever I'm at. And what I've noticed is if I try to pick that fur out, it just ends up being a big clumped mess. And so I found that if I just leave that until it dries, sometimes I can get it out of there without having any problem, and maybe just having to touch up just a little bit. So just a little tip there for you. Now we're going to go ahead and let that dry completely. Okay, so I'm going to mix up my Hooker's green. I did not have that quite ready yet. And I am using a size 2 brush. This is also the Princeton brush. I will list these all in the description, so no worries there. And I'm just making little tiny brush strokes, almost like a dry brush stroke as I go along. I'm letting the brush dry out and just continue adding those brush strokes all the way along. And I found that the more that you fill them in, the more it looks natural and real. So I just I'm not like doing it in any uniform way. I'm just kind of pulling them out, crossing them over, bending them, and just giving them that natural tree branch look, or the pine bough. So we're just going to go ahead and do another one. We're just going to kind of curve that one kind of just around the poinsettia. I don't know, the poinsettia is spelled poinsettia, so I'm not exactly sure how you say that correctly, but I've always just known it as poinsettia. So, and then continuing to just paint those branches again, just with the tip, very tip of my brush. I am just going in there and painting, just making quick little brush strokes, kind of like you would do eyelashes. You just want to push it down, or not push it down, but barely tip of it to the paper, and then just kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? Just pulling it out quickly. And one more time. I'm just going to go ahead and skip through this part so you don't have to watch me. I am using, so I did tell a little lie. I am using the burnt umber for this. And I have mixed a little bit of neutral gray, I believe it is called, into it just to make it a little bit darker, burnt umber. You could also mix it with a little bit of black if you have the black. And I am just drawing those twigs out just like I did with the pine boughs, and just using the tip of my brush and just kind of making a quick little stroke. And I'm just looking for some balance here as I decide where I'm going to put these little twigs and that are going to have berries on them at the end. And I think that looks good right there. And so while we're waiting for all of those to dry, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the rest of my leaves. I'm mixing up my gold, and I'm just going to do some gold in the center here, and that way I can be letting that dry while I paint the leaves. And I do really like this gold quite a bit. It's pretty iridescent, just a metallic Daniel Smith gold. I ended up, you'll see from the thumbnail, I'll show a picture at the end so that you can see that I did go ahead and outline that with a gold mono marker. And I will list that as well in the description. I just found that I really liked the darker gold, and this marker pen that I'm going to use after I get all finished is my favorite one. I've tried all kinds of different gold marker pens, and this one is my favorite. So I will definitely list that in the description. And we're going to fast forward through this part and get to the painting of the rest. Okay, so you can see I let that dry, the gold, and then I am going back in here again with the darker. I'm using the alizarin mixed with the cadmium red, just a little tiny bit of cadmium red. It's mostly alizarin crimson. And we're just finishing off those leaves, and we will let that dry. I am going to put a concentrated, I just dip my brush in water, dip it in the barely wet paint. I keep them in a tray, and I do put a little bit of the paint from the tube into the tray and let them dry overnight. That's how I like to use my paints. I just think it's it takes a little bit longer for them to be ready and juicy to be able to use, but I just find that it lasts a lot longer and it's not quite as expensive. But just in the center of those, just like I did at the beginning, I'm just putting a little dab of alizarin crimson. I'm working that last petal here. And a fun thing that you can do is you can leave spaces between each petal, like just a little bit of white space, which is a kind of a fun, different style that if you have watched my hibiscus video, the video short, then you will be able to see that. And here we go. Like I said, I'm just kind of tapping in some thicker alizarin crimson, and that's going to bloom out and just leave some nice texture and depth. Now we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I am going to outline the edges. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and put the berries on there now. And you can see I just filled in my little mistake there. Nobody would even know that I made a blob on my paper because I am just making it look as if it were part of the picture. I also didn't mention this, but I did cut this 5x7 so that I could either put it in a frame or put it on the front of a card to send as a Christmas card. And I have been doing a lot of that lately just because I find that a lot of my paintings get stacked somewhere and nobody gets to enjoy them. And so I bought a package of frames from Amazon, 5x7 frames, so that I can frame them and then give them as a gift, or I can put them on the front of a 5x7 card and send them. So that's always a nice way to use your paintings. And you can see here's the finished print. As I said before, I did take the mono marker and went around the outside of the edges. So you'll be able to see what that looks like on this next frame. Thank you for watching today. I hope that you will come back and join me again soon. Click and subscribe and click the like button so that more people will be able to find this channel.